What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. You are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. And today we have a really great show. We always have a really great show, let's be honest, but today's I'm very excited about. So today we are talking about the other F word. I'll let you just play with that for a moment. So on Time to Rise and Thrive, we talk about our subliminal soundtrack, how to get it working for us rather than against us. We talk about recognizing your unique beauty, your value, and the contribution that you are to the world. Isn't that yummy? I just love this. I love doing the show. I love every single week. And it's so much fun to create. It's so much fun. You know, when I first started doing this, I thought, oh, at some point, I'm probably going to run out of ideas. Nope. Nope, that has never happened. So today we are talking about the other F word and how to free yourself by using it. So would you like to know the number one reason that we get stuck? The number one reason that we get stuck and can't move forward. We get stuck in the muck of our feelings, our emotions about something that's happened. It sounds so simple to let go of this, but to truly forgive can be very difficult. It can be very difficult. It can be a process, especially when the person that we need to forgive is ourselves. Hard stuff, hard stuff. So today's show is going to be kind of serious. I'll do my best to throw some funny stories in here and there, but I'd really like you to stick with me because this is one of those things that catches people up and causes them to stay stuck in places, in times, in situations that don't allow them to move forward with their lives. Think about those people that we all know someone, or maybe you are someone, I don't know. Think about those people that something happens, something tragic, something very difficult, something painful happens in their lives, and they build their world around that incident. It really breaks my heart when I see that. It really breaks my heart because there is so much more life available. There's so much more life available. When we lost my sister, that was by far the best lesson that I took away from that experience is that every day we are here, we have an opportunity to do something that somebody else doesn't. Do you understand what I'm saying? It truly is a gift. It truly is something to be grateful for. So let's talk about how we can free ourselves so that we can actually move on and get on about the business of having a life, of creating a life, of enjoying life again. Let's talk about that, okay? So before we get too far into this, I want to just give you an explanation of what I mean when I say subliminal soundtrack. So this is my terminology for that loop of messages that plays in the back of your mind all day, every day. It's filled up with all these bits of information that we've gathered throughout the course of our lives. You know, every relationship we've ever had, every experience, every conversation, every lesson you've ever learned, every single experience gives you little bits of information that you gather together and they get stored back there on that subliminal soundtrack. Now, we use that information to create our belief systems about ourselves, about what's possible in this world. What does it mean to love or be loved? What does it mean to have money or to not have money? What does it mean to be successful? Because if you actually talk to people, successful is like this yardstick and it's different for everybody. Some people measure it by the amount of money or things that they accumulate. Some people measure it by the positive impact that they leave in the world. Some people measure it by raising children. Well, there are so many different ways to measure success. It's very, very individual. Like truly, it's very individual. So, what do all of those things mean? That stuff is determined by what's going on in the back of our minds all day, every day. So, if you have messages that are back there that are holding you back, you may not even realize it because this stuff happens in our subconscious. So, very often we're not even aware that there's something there that's holding us back unless we start to get curious and go, well, what is this? Why do I keep on finding myself in the same situations, in the same types of relationships, in the same financial circumstances? What is this about? And then we can start to pull it out and uncover it and deal with the causes, the roots of the things that are causing those messages to play in the back of our mind. It's not even that difficult to start to shift them, but we have to be purposeful. And there is a process that we do. That's what I do. I love working with this stuff, and I've learned a lot of it. I've taken lots and lots of personal development courses, classes, seminars, workshops, all of that kind of stuff. And I've walked the talk. I've done this work for myself in order to free myself from the past and create a new life for myself. So I've put together these systems and tools that actually help people to understand what's happening. And it's important for us to understand what it is that's happening. It very often is not necessary for us to dig too deep into the why. The what is the thing that we work with. And then we can start to shift it into something different. It's really fascinating. And the most fascinating thing about this thing for me is that what we believe to be true will be true for us, even if it's based on completely incorrect information. So, what that basically means is that if you have learned something or been conditioned to believe that something is true, think about, I don't know how old you are, but when I was growing up, we were sort of the tail end of the baby boomers starting into the next generation. So there was this mindset that you wanted to get a really good government or factory job that had benefits, that had a pension, that had, all of those things. And so your education would be dependent on where you thought you wanted to go. Did you even need an education? Could you become some skilled trade, whatever it was, right? But there was this idea that you would stay in one job until you were ready to retire. And that was the golden egg, right? And in the world that we live in now, I mean, everything is virtual. There's so many different ways to do things than there were when I was a young child and learning those sorts of lessons. So it's important for us to be open to what's going on back there so that we can pull it out, and where it's holding us back, we can work on shifting it around into something that will actually support us into moving forward and creating the life that we actually do desire. That's what I love to do. So, how does this subliminal soundtrack thing work when we're talking about forgiveness? So, forgiveness is a tricky thing. And that, by the way, is the other F word. Over the course of the show today, we're going to talk about what it means, where we get stuck, how to free ourselves. And then in the last segment of the show, we're going to talk about that forgiving ourselves bit, because that can sometimes be the most difficult part. So, how does this thing work? What is going on back here that could be influencing your ability to embrace forgiveness or your unwillingness to let things go? So I'll tell you that I grew up in a family where grudge, we've got Irish and Scottish and, you know, stubborn people. I am going to tell you, stubborn people, and if you did something wrong, well, you better make it right, because my grandmother, holy cow, she could hold on to it. I don't know how she did it. Not sure it was really that good for her, but she could hold on to a grudge for years, and it was really kind of crazy. So when I work with things, I tend to think about those examples that I've had in my life before. And was that something that I want to bring into my life, or would I like to shift it around? Do you see what I'm saying? So if we believe this is going to, for me, this is really quite icky. If we believe that people, including ourselves, deserve, ooh, deserve to pay for what they've done, especially if it's harmed us, We will likely go through our lives carrying with us every single thing that has ever happened, every single word or action or circumstance that was created by somebody else that caused us to feel pain or betrayal or whatever it is. If you're someone who believes in that, people deserve to be punished. Ooh, just for a minute, okay? I'm just going to ask you. We do this sometimes on the show, but just be with that word for a minute. That people deserve to be punished. Be with that for a second, and how does that feel? It does not feel good in my body. And if you're someone who can pick up on that energetic stuff, I'm going to guess it probably doesn't for you. So let's take it to the other side. Let's take it to the other side. What if we believe that forgiveness is actually not for the other person, it's for us? Huh. What if we believe instead that we do not deserve to continue to suffer because of someone else's choices, words, or actions? Huh. What if we believe that we deserve to be happy? What if we believe that we deserve to create a life for ourselves, regardless of what other people are doing, thinking, saying? What if we could do that? Do you feel the shift? One is very, very constraining. Deserve is very constraining. And the other is much more open, right? It opens things up. It releases the tension. It releases the pain. It releases the grief and the bitterness and all of those sorts of things. If you ever need sort of a quick way to figure out if something is, I don't really like the use of these words, but good for you or bad for you. I don't really like those words, but you know what I'm talking about. That is a really great check-in point. How does it feel in my body? Does it feel open and like loose, or does it make me go like this? That's a really great test. Okay. And you will very quickly, if you start to play with that, you will very quickly start to understand where your body triggers are and what they mean. It's not even hard to do. Okay. So if you believe that you don't deserve to carry this stuff around, then you are going to work through whatever it is you need to work through in order to release that. And then here's the really beautiful thing. You've now freed up space and energy in your world to create a spot for some new circumstances to come, for new money flows to come, for new people to show up, for new types of activities, relationships, whatever it is. Do you see what I'm saying? We have to create the space. And as long as we are holding on tight to that thing, because maybe at a time it serves you, but eventually we have to let go so that we can, be open to take something else. Think about it from that position. Let go of the thing that no longer serves you so you have a space to bring in something else. So, what does it truly mean to forgive? Now, there are all kinds of people I hear talk about this all the time. And whatever works for you, whatever language, whatever sort of framework works well for you, I would encourage you to hold on to that. Okay. There is this part of it that is the release part. And later in the show, we're going to talk about this forgive and forget, because that's where I tend to get. And this is a work in progress for me as well. We will change and grow and evolve and adapt and all of that kind of stuff. So, what you feel today may be a little bit different when you hear somebody else talk about it. And I'm very much hoping that by the time we're done the show today, you've had at least a little bit of a something new to consider, a different perspective to think about, to see if that might serve you. All right. That is my goal for today. So one of the things that I've heard said over and over again is that carrying a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. Think about that for a second. Negative energies, negative emotions that we hold on to, and we almost like nurture and foster them for some reason. And we'll get into some of the reasons in our next segment, but we nurture and foster those negative emotions. And eventually it starts to grow. And that's where people start to get sick. Stress and heart issues and strokes and all kinds of other things are aggravated, if not created, by additional stress. And even I'm going to go out on a limb and say even a lack of forgiveness sometimes will hold us in a space that creates dis-ease in our body, which is illness. Okay. So this is why it's so very important. It also means that we don't carry it with us. So we lay it down. We lay it down. Picture that each one of those things that's happened is a weight of some description. It could be a rock. It could be like gold bullion, but we don't want to talk about that because I'd like to have a bag full of gold bullion in all honesty. But think about it as an extra weight, and you've got this sack. So every time that you experience something that you refuse to forgive, you're dropping another weight into that bag, and you will carry that with you as you go through your life. Think about that for a second. Do you want to be burdened, or would you like to be able to move freely and create different things? Because we all have only so much strength and so much energy. If you're wasting your energy hauling around this sack of weights that are the result of unforgiveness, you're just wearing yourself out for no good reason. Just saying. Okay, so we are going to head to our first break now. You are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. Today, we are talking about how to forgive in order to free ourselves from the people and circumstances that are blocking us from creating the beautiful new life that is just waiting for us. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Stick with us for just a minute. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about how to free ourselves from the people, circumstances, situations that are blocking us because we have not yet forgiven them. So this is where we're going to talk about the what keeps us stuck. Now, we've all been there. And, some things I'm going to say, some things kind of depend on the relationship that we have with a person. Just think about this for just a second. If I'm driving down the road and somebody cuts me off in traffic and I don't know who they are, I might get a little bit ticked off or irritated, depending on the kind of day I'm having. Most of the time, it doesn't really bother me all that much, but I might get a little bit ticked off in the moment. But by the time I make it home, It's probably completely gone. Now, did they do something wrong? Sure. Did they do something against me? Sure. Does it matter? No. As long as everybody's okay, as long as I make it home in one piece, then no, it doesn't matter. But if somebody who is like a really close friend or a family member to you, and they say or do something that deeply cuts you, and then especially if they don't do anything to reconcile it, to, make up for it, to try to make it right with you, then we get into a position where, you know, it's that heartbreak that can happen. It's that heartbreak that happens because, or disappointment, or like there's so many different pieces that it could be, right? But the closer that person is to you. So we just talked about that guy in traffic. I don't know him from a hill of beans. So is he important in my world? No, not really, not all that much, right? But somebody who does something that's very, very close to me in my life, that's when it's going to really hurt. And that's when sometimes we have to work through this process of forgiving. It also depends on what happened, right? I mean, some things are very easy to forgive. Somebody says something the wrong way and it was an accident, or somebody does something that they didn't actually think through and they didn't mean to cause us harm. And then they do whatever they have to make it right. Then it's not hard. Then it's almost never hard to let that go and get on with your life, in the family, in the whatever circumstances, in the friendship, whatever it is, and it's not like I've done things too. I'm not sitting here trying to make myself look innocent. I've said and done things before that, sometimes were and sometimes were not intended to cause harm. Sometimes we say something, it just pops out of our mouth before we even realize what's coming out. It does happen. It does happen. Believe me, it happens to me half the time on the show. When you are in these places where you just sort of flee, what is that word? Flowing. You're just sort of flowing in the conversation. Sometimes your mind just goes boop, and oops, that was not a kind thing to say. And I didn't even mean it the way it sounded. Haley says, especially with family, it can be hurtful. It really can. It really can. And I mean, sometimes it can be hilarious too, right? That's the other thing. For me, sometimes these things pop out of my head or out of my mouth. I'm sorry, that I'm not expecting. I didn't really think it through. And I'm not going to tell you because some of them are pretty bad. They're not at all. They were never meant to be rude, but boy, did they ever sound like it coming out. That's what makes it funny. So when we find ourselves in these positions where, especially if it was somebody close who refuses to acknowledge, that they have caused you harm, that Eh, that can be really hard. One of the things that I really like to play with, especially with those people that I care deeply about, is like this idea of we can agree to disagree, or we can agree to, you have your side of the story, I have my side of the story, whatever it is, but try to come back and reconcile. Try to do what you can to make the relationship good again. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think sometimes it's important for us to acknowledge that the people who hurt us most deeply are the people that are closest. They have the best access to those parts of us that can be hurt, don't they? Right. So, our emotions. So, we can have things where maybe our trust has been broken. We're angry, we're hurt, or there's been a sudden loss. Grief is a thing, and often people who are grieving the death of a spouse or a loved one that was very close to them, that's one of the things that they feel, this anger because you left, right? Yeah, I'm angry because you're no longer here. Now, it's sort of misplaced. It's not usually the other person's fault that happened, but it is still one of the very natural things for people to feel. So when we have these emotions that are so strong, we really can get stuck in them. And this is why it is so very, very important for us to allow these things to flow, for us to feel what we feel so that we can work it through, to talk to people, to do the things that we need to do to work those things through so that they don't get stuck, so they don't get in that, like into that dis-ease place. And Haley's got to help me forgive. I say that I'm going to say this wrong. I think it's a Ho'oponopono prayer. I think that's how it's said, but I'm not sure. And that one is, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Is that correct, Haley? Just give me a thumbs up or something. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Yes. So that's a really great one. And that can shift, man, that can shift energy so quickly, so quickly. So that's another one. Do some research on that if you need to. There's all kinds of really beautiful images with that prayer online, all kinds of beautiful ones. And that was something that was actually suggested to me a long time ago, was this thing. I hadn't heard about it until then, and it really is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So one of the things that I know we can get stuck on is blame, that fault, that shame, all of that kind of stuff. And what I'm going to ask you to do is kick around, just sort of play with this. Okay. And if you can work it in, great. If it doesn't feel right for you right now, maybe you're not quite ready. Okay. But that blame and fault piece is one of those emotional places where we can get stuck. We can get stuck in the rightness or wrongness. So I need to be right, therefore someone else has to be wrong. Do you see what I'm saying? And sometimes maybe you know people, I know I do, who are very caught up in this idea that if like I couldn't possibly be wrong, because then like the sky is going to fall if I'm wrong. Do you see what I'm saying? And when you get more comfortable with this, it's okay for someone else to have a different version of the events. It's okay for someone else to have a different opinion or different feelings than I have. It's okay. And that doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't make them wrong. It's just, it's okay. Do you see what I'm saying? We are taking the energetic charge away from the emotions. So I'm not saying don't feel how you feel. What I'm saying is feel them, work through them, and make your goal to be to release them and let them go. Because if you want, like, just, I have this picture in my head and I don't know why, but I have this picture in my head of like a swamp. And, you get mired in the deep muck and you can't pull your leg out. You can't move forward. You can't do anything. You're stuck, or quicksand or something like that. You are stuck. So what I want us to look at is this idea that the forgiveness is the way through and out of the quicksand or the muck. The skills that we need to work through and out of those places is what the forgiveness really is. So we do this for ourselves. We don't do this for the other person. And very often, in these situations, especially if somebody's passed away, you're never going to get an apology. You're never going to get an apology. So you have to figure out how to work through it yourself so that you can release it yourself. Because, I mean, come on. Do you really want to carry around something that, oh, they owe you an apology? Well, maybe they do. Who cares? What's it going to change? What's it going to change? That's an important question. All right. So one of the other things that helps us get stuck in this is the opinions of other people. Have you ever had a conversation where you're working through your thing and you're coming to that place of, okay, like peace, acceptance, and then somebody goes, oh my God, what did they do? And all of a sudden you're like, boom, right there with them again. Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me a couple of times. I'm honest. It's happened to me a couple of times. Yes. So the weight of other people's opinions can also keep us stuck in that place. If we surround ourselves with people who are in that right and wrong space, in that space where it must be one or the other, it doesn't give us any wiggle room. It doesn't give us the allowance of, it's okay for me to feel how I feel. And it's also okay for that person to feel how they feel. Do you see what I'm saying? That's where the freedom comes. That is where the freedom comes. So we need to allow ourselves to just be in a space of, okay, but that doesn't work for me. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I hear you. I get what you're saying. And that doesn't work for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I need to do over here and get this done. Do you see what I'm saying? It's okay for that person to have that opinion. It's okay. You know, if we can get to a place where it's always okay. Can you understand the freedom that could come with that? Yeah. It's a whole different way of living. It's a whole different way of being. It's all okay. As long as we are still breathing, as long as we are still upright and on this side of the dirt, it's okay. Do you see what I'm saying? There are very few things. And most of them are going to kill you that cannot be overcome. You've got this. You can overcome anything that comes your way. As soon as you start to actually believe that and stand in the power of that. I'm not a victim of anybody. I'm not a victim. Right. I'm not a victim. I'm standing in my own power. I'm taking responsibility for myself, for my feelings, for my direction, for my choices. I'm taking responsibility. And that means that I am standing in my power right now. Do you see? So the unforgiveness I am giving that person or that circumstance or situation, whatever it was that happened, I'm giving my power over there by staying in that place of anger and bitterness and all of that, right? I'm giving away my power to that person or that situation or whatever that circumstance is. So I take my power back and I say, no, I'm responsible for my own life. I'm not a victim. I'm making my own choices here. Yes, that's the gold. That's the gold, my friends. All right. Last point on this, and then we're going to head to our next break. Revenge. Revenge is what is it? Revenge is a dish best served cold. Is that what it is? I'm going to ask you to consider another possibility. What if the best revenge is to just create a full and fulfilling and happy life for yourself? What if the best revenge is not allowing that situation to take you out of the game? Think about that for a second. And you can hold on to it. And I mean, do what you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Do what you want. But if you're here with me, then I'm guessing that you're looking for some help with this. So that's what we're doing today on the show. So we're going to head to our next break. I am Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert, and I'm your host on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. Stick with us for a minute. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about the other F word and how using it can help you to free yourself. So we're going to go into the how right now. So I'm going to invite you to grab yourself a pen and paper. And while you do that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about what's been going on in my world and the things that are coming up. So first and foremost, this is Thanksgiving weekend in the US. So happy Thanksgiving to all of my US friends and family. I hope you guys are eating lots of good stuff and enjoying yourselves tremendously, finding all kinds of stuff to be grateful for this weekend. So as sticking with that theme, I guess, Black Friday, I have decided that I'm going to run one of my programs. So it is 30 days to fall in love with you. It is a completely online virtual program. It is starting December 1st, and it will all be in a private Facebook group. So each day for 30 days, Monday through Friday, I will be giving you new exercises, new ideas to kick around, journaling things, homework stuff, but it'll be fun and easy. Well, may have to dig a little bit here and there, but the goal is that by the end of that 30 days that you are looking at yourself with new eyes of love, that you are able to see that beauty and value and contribution that only you can bring to this world. That is the goal of the program. Normally this program runs for $197. Black Friday, and because I just turned 50 a couple weeks ago, yay, 50% off. So $97. $97 is going to get you access to 30 days to fall in love with you. It's a wonderful program. I love running it. I'm going to invite you to find me, Jackie Mott, Mindset and Empowerment Expert, on Facebook, and send me a message there. I'll be putting up some information this afternoon about how to register for that program and get set up in that group. So again, Jackie Mott, Mindset and Empowerment Expert on Facebook, and you will find some information about that this afternoon. You can also send me a private message through Facebook and I will get back to you. But I would like for you to take advantage of that 50% off. I'll run it again later, but next time it'll be $197. So $97. There you go. That's your savings for Black Friday. So how do we do this thing we call forgiveness? It can be a process. So that is one of the things that I really want to hammer home for you today. It can be a process. And there are certain things that happen that they just, like, there's so many pieces to them that trying to deal with the whole thing at once can be overwhelming. So sometimes it's necessary for us to take little bits, just like we gathered that information with little bits. It's the same thing when we're trying to release that information sometimes, or release all of this stuff, pull ourselves out of the quicksand. You know, if you're mired in quicksand and somebody throws you a rope, you're not likely going to just pop right out. You're going to have to pull yourself out, right? So inch by inch by inch, you'll get there. Inch by inch by inch. It's a process. It can take some time. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself as you are working through these things. So I have a bunch of questions that I wrote out this morning that I think are really relevant to this process. And I'm going to suggest that you do a couple of different things with this. So one of them, if you're a writer, if you're somebody like me who I like to, it's not even like to necessarily, it helps me to open things up sometimes when I just start writing or typing and let it flow out of me. So journaling is a great way to do this. Meditation is also a great way to do this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the om kind of meditation. Okay. It could be walking in nature. It could be, for me, one of the most meditative things I do, believe it or not, is when I do the dishes. There's something soothing and calming to my spirit about that hot water and the bubbles. I don't know what it is, but you can go for a walk. You can listen to music quietly, just whatever works for you. Okay. But the important piece is for you to be able to get into a space where you can really process and be open. Okay. So this is not about anything more than opening this up so that you can actually look at it. So I'm going to ask you to look at, or to approach this with the energy of curiosity, the energy of what is really going on here, not the energy of what is wrong with this. Okay. Because the more of that energy you throw at this, the harder it's going to be for you to get to it. So we're going to be calm. We're going to be curious. We're going to be sort of looking at this from a place of, what is this thing and what can I do about it? All right. So here are the questions. Number one, what do I have to gain from holding on to this? That one can be, it can be pretty heavy. What do I have to gain from holding on to this? So particularly if this is something that has, somebody has hit you where it hurts, your money, your love, your, like, if someone's hit you in some of those places, what do I have to gain from holding on to this? Now, if you were going into battle mode, if you were in a position where you must gear up and be ready for battle, then maybe it's very helpful for you to keep that energy of, oh no, you didn't, right? If you're gearing up for battle, having that energy may be helpful. It's probably one of the very few things that I can think of where it's going to actually be helpful or positive for you. So what do I have to gain by holding on to this? What is it? It's that, like, what is the payoff? What is it giving me? Okay. Our next question. Now, this is where you need to be really, really honest with yourself. What is holding on to this costing me? What is it costing me? Is it costing me my peace? Is it costing me my ability to interact with people that I care about in a gentle, kind way? Because, man, if you come home and you're raring to go, are you nice to be around? I don't know many people who would be, right? So is it robbing me of that place where I can be kind and gentle with the people that I love? Is it costing me money? Is it costing me time? Is it costing me my sleep? What is it costing you? Honest. No one else has to see this but you. Question 3, is there anything I can do about this? Is there anything I can do to change this? Or is this a circumstance that's happened that there's nothing I can do? It's a very important question to ask. If the answer is right or is yes, then I'm going to ask you to do what you need to make it right. Okay. Make amends, whatever it is that you need to do, or even just like settle it. Just settle it. Okay. Resolve it, whatever it is, so that you can lay it down. Question number 4, what do I need to do to release this? So maybe you need to write a letter. Maybe you need to have a conversation. Maybe you need to, I don't know. Do you know what just popped into my head? Forrest Gump. If you've ever seen that movie, when he decides that he's going to start running and he doesn't stop, what do I need to do? Maybe you need to go for a run. I don't know. Maybe you need to exercise. Maybe you need to go and see a counselor. Maybe you need go and see your doctor for some medical support. I don't know. That's what you're going to figure out. What do you need to do to release this? Question number 5, what would open up for me if I did release this? Now, this is where it can actually start to open. What could open up? Because now we're shifting our focus from the thing that happened and the pain and the anger and all of that ugly emotion. And we're starting to go, okay, so if I let it go, what might come in? if I let it go, what might come in? Okay. So again, this is a process. Be gentle with yourself. I often call this dancing with my demons. And if you need help, please go find it. There is no shame in asking for help when you are struggling with something. So go to a doctor, go to a counselor, find a coach, find a good friend or family member that will be able to be that space that allows you to say what you need to say, release the emotions you need to release in order. And maybe it only comes in little bits at a time, and that's okay. So find the people that will allow you the space and the time and give you the support in order to do that. Okay. So we are going to head to our last break of the show. Today we are talking about, what are we talking about? The F word, the other F word, and how to free yourself by using it. And when we come back, we are going to talk about one of the most difficult for me times that I've ever had to actually do this. So you are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Stick with us. We'll be back to wrap up the show in just a moment.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to our final segment of today's show. You are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network, and I'm your host, Jackie Mott. So today we are talking about the other F word and how using it will help you free yourself. Now, I promised I would share with you one of the most difficult times that this was for me to use these tools to actually do this work. And that was actually, I'm going to say maybe a year or two ago. And it was this thing where it was necessary for me to forgive myself. This one it was tough. It was tough. And I remember getting really angry at the person one of my dear friends, and she said something to me one day, and I got mad. I got so mad. I was like, what do you mean forgive myself? I'm not the one who did this. This isn't my fault. What do you mean forgive myself? I have nothing to forgive myself for. And it's always interesting how, we say those things and we say them because we believe them in the moment. And then all of a sudden, one day you go, oh. So this, I think that sometimes some of us, and I hear people talk about this, it's like a recurring theme in our life. Okay. It's a recurring theme. So we're shown this here, and then we're shown it again here. And I think that one of the ideas is that we can get easier and easier and easier with the process the more we practice it. So the first time is always really tough, really, in my experience. Now, it may not be for you, and that's okay. But in my experience, the first time is always really tough. And then the next time I have to do the same thing, the process is probably pretty similar. Circumstances might be completely different, but the process is probably similar. And each time I go through that process, it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier to do. So what I realized, and this has been here's the recurring theme, what I realized was that in certain circumstances, what I needed to forgive myself for was allowing certain things to happen, allowing them to happen, not thinking highly enough of myself to know that I deserved better, to know that I deserved kindness and compassion and love and honor and all of those things. That's what it boiled down to for me. So it was kind of a ball, because it was, all of these feelings of unworthiness and all of that stuff wrapped up together. And it was necessary for me to kind of pull it apart to get at the different pieces. But for me, that was the hardest thing, was to acknowledge what I had allowed, the circumstances, the people that I had allowed into my life. So it's really a very similar thing. Radical personal responsibility, we've talked about a lot on the show. So go back and find other shows where I mentioned that. We're almost out of time here, so I've really got to wrap things up. I've got so much more to say. Oh my goodness. So go through these same steps that we talked about. Ask yourself the same questions. What is it that you need to own in order to move past this? That's the thing that's important here. And if it's something that you would like more information on, contact me through Facebook, Jackie Mott, Mindset and Empowerment Expert. Contact me there, and maybe I'll do a workshop specifically around that. It's a big subject, this forgiveness thing. It really is. So on that note, we're going to wrap up the show. I've got a quote to leave you with. It says, when you have been deeply hurt or harmed, it can be hard to release that and move on. But holding on to things that don't serve us will lock us up and allow for further pain or harm. Let it go, free yourself, and move forward to create a life that makes you happy. That is my wish for you, my friends. That is my wish for you. So thank you so much for being with us today on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. We will be back next week, Friday afternoon. Always, we are live, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 Mountain, and 10 Pacific. Next week, we have a special guest. As far as I know right now, we have Chevelle McPherson. She was meant to be on the show a few weeks back. Something came up, so we had to sort of switch gears. So she is scheduled to be on the show with us next week, and we will be talking about creating a start over proof life. I'm so excited to see her again. Chevelle has amazing energy. She is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. She's a lawyer. She's very accomplished. She's got so many wonderful things that she's doing with her life. So I can't wait to have her on the show with me next week. So let's see. Oh, you can also go to jackiemott.com to get your free copy of 5 Steps to Create a Mindset Wired for Success. So I've talked about this subliminal soundtrack on the show, and most other shows I talk about it too. And this one will actually give you the steps that we walk through. So if you need additional support in the how of walking through them, then you are more than welcome to get a hold of me. This is the stuff that I love to work with, but it'll give you sort of a nutshell idea of what is it that we need to do in order to shift that mindset around. And I think there's even a bonus tip in there, if I'm not mistaken. So 5 steps to create a mindset wired for success. That's on jackiemott.com. You just have to go on there and click on the button, and you will get the free download sent directly to your email by PDF. So thank you so very, very much for joining us today. I'm so excited to do the show every week. I absolutely love Friday afternoons and everything that comes with it. Even the snow that we're getting today, it's kind of crazy, like it's blustery today. But I love Friday afternoons. And thank you, Haley. Again, Haley is with us almost every week, and I adore her. She's so funny. You'd love to meet her, I bet, right? Yeah. Yes. So thank you again for joining me. And we will be back next week. Until then, don't forget, it is your time to rise and thrive.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central. 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.